A few peaceful days passed after my campaign. For the first time since I had transmigrated into this world, the demon kingdom had finally stabilized. The treasury, which had once been empty, was overflowing again. The soldiers had finally received their salaries. The citizens no longer looked hopeless. Even the palace servants had smiles on their faces. Watching all of this, I couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. Looks like I wasn't completely useless after all. With nothing urgent left to handle, I finally decided to give myself a break. I carried a cup of hot tea and walked toward the palace balcony. A cool breeze brushed past my face. Below me, the enormous demon palace bustled with life. Guards patrolled the walls. Servants hurried through the gardens. Ministers carried piles of documents from one building to another. Everything was finally running smoothly. I leaned against the balcony railing and took a sip of tea. Peace. I almost forgot what that felt like. After spending the last few days conquering kingdoms, rebuilding the treasury, and cleaning up the previous host's disasters, I finally had a chance to relax. Then I suddenly remembered something. Oh right. I never checked my reward. I casually opened the system. A familiar blue screen appeared before my eyes. The reward from my previous mission was still waiting. Celestial binding rope. Rank, divine artifact.
Description.
Can bind any being below the heavenly realm. I blinked several times. That's absurd. A divine artifact? I read the description again just to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Can bind any being below the heavenly realm. I rubbed my chin thoughtfully. So, it can bind anyone? The system answered immediately. Correct. I thought for a moment before asking another question. Even me. The answer came without hesitation. Correct. I silently closed the information panel. Yeah. I'm never testing that. Who in their right mind would experiment with something that could bind its own owner? The previous host probably would, but I certainly wasn't that stupid. Just as I was about to enjoy another sip of tea, a familiar notification suddenly appeared before me. Main mission completed. Villain progress, 30%. A smile slowly appeared on my face. 30% already? So becoming the greatest villain in history isn't as difficult as I thought. Before I could celebrate, another notification appeared. New main mission generated. My eyes lit up with curiosity. Oh, let's see what ridiculous thing you want me to do this time. The next panel slowly opened. I looked at it, then looked again. My smile completely disappeared. Main mission. Kidnap the human princess. Silence. System. What kind of mission is this? The system answered with its usual emotionless voice. Mission issued successfully. The previous owner of this body spent years chasing that woman. I finally managed to convince everyone I wasn't obsessed with her anymore. If I kidnap her now, won't everyone think I've gone back to being a simp? The system completely ignored my complaints. Instead, another notification appeared. Mission accepted. I stared blankly at the floating panel. It accepted itself again. Does my opinion have absolutely no value? The system remained silent. Of course. A third notification appeared. Failure penalty. I immediately raised my hand. Stop. I already know. Soul erasure. The system answered calmly. Correct. I grabbed both sides of my head. Aha. At that exact moment, a maid happened to walk beneath the balcony. She jumped in fright after hearing my scream. Why, your majesty? I immediately cleared my throat and forced a calm expression onto my face. Nothing. There was a mosquito. The maid looked around in confusion. She awkwardly bowed before quickly leaving. The moment she disappeared, I buried my face in my hands. My reputation is finished. Far below, I could hear the two maids whispering to each other. I think His Majesty has been working too hard. The other maid nodded sympathetically. Rebuilding an entire kingdom must be exhausting. Neither of them knew that the strongest demon king in existence was currently losing an argument to an invisible, emotionless system, and somehow, I had lost every single round. After calming myself down, I decided there was no point arguing with the system anymore. No matter what I said, it would either ignore me or threaten me with soul erasure. Fine, you win, but don't expect me to be happy about it. I leaned back in my chair and began thinking. Kidnapping the princess wasn't the difficult part. The difficult part was doing it without making the entire world believe I had become the same idiot as the previous host. After thinking for a while, a simple plan slowly formed in my mind. I smiled. That should work. Without wasting another second, I called for Butler Shin. A few moments later, he entered the room and respectfully bowed. Your Majesty. I stood up and adjusted my cloak. I'll be leaving the palace for an important mission. He looked slightly surprised. Would your Majesty like me to prepare the army? I shook my head. No. This mission is better handled alone. He didn't ask another question. As you command. I nodded before raising my hand. Crack. Space fractured like a piece of glass. A massive black portal appeared before me. Stepping inside, the scenery around me instantly disappeared. A moment later, I emerged high above the kingdom of Asteria, the kingdom where the human princess lived. From the sky, I looked down at the magnificent capital. Countless buildings stretched into the distance. Busy streets overflowed with people. Towering walls surrounded the royal palace. So this is the strongest human kingdom. I slowly descended into a quiet alley before hiding my aura completely. Well, I've already accepted the mission. Backing out now only gets my soul erased. I let out a helpless sigh. Besides, I'm actually curious. What kind of woman could make the previous owner of this body throw away everything? During the execution, she never even appeared. So today will be the first time I see her. I stretched my shoulders and looked toward the distant palace. With my cultivation, I could simply destroy this kingdom and carry her away. But the system specifically ordered me to kidnap her without anyone noticing. As annoying as it is, I don't have much of a choice. The plan itself was simple. Find the princess, knock her unconscious, open a space portal, return to the demon palace. Mission complete. Simple. Or at least, that's what I thought. After spending nearly an hour searching every corner of the enormous royal palace, I still couldn't find a single trace of her. This palace is almost as large as mine. No wonder it's considered the second strongest kingdom in the world. And they even have that hero protecting it. I shrugged. Not that it matters. None of them can beat me anyway. Just as my patience was beginning to run out, I overheard two soldiers talking while they walked through a nearby corridor. Her Highness really is incredible. She entered the dungeon alone again today. The captain tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. The second soldier laughed bitterly. That's just how the princess is. She says if she always depends on others to protect her, then she'll never become truly strong. I quietly listened from the shadows. So, she's in the dungeon. Now everything made sense. The human princess wasn't obsessed with romance. She wasn't waiting for someone to save her. Long ago, several nobles had tried to force her into marriage. Others had attempted to kidnap her because of her beauty and status. Although she had always been rescued, she hated the feeling of relying on someone else. From that day onward, she devoted herself completely to becoming stronger. Not because she dreamed of becoming a hero, but because she wanted the strength to protect herself. Couldn't help but nod. At least, she's far more sensible than the previous owner of this body. A small smile appeared on my face. Let's see just how strong the human princess really is. Following the soldier's directions, I finally found the entrance to the dungeon. The massive stone gate stood before me. Without hesitation, I stepped inside. The deeper I walked, the darker everything became. The dungeon was enormous. Twisting tunnels stretched in every direction. Powerful monster auras filled the air. I didn't expect the royal family to have such a huge dungeon. I continued searching while completely hiding my own presence. Even if someone stood right in front of me, they wouldn't notice I was there. Several minutes passed. I searched one floor after another. Still, there was no sign of the princess. I let out a frustrated sigh. Don't tell me she's on another floor. Just as my patience was beginning to run out, a deafening roar echoed through the dungeon. Boom! The ground trembled beneath my feet. The sound had come from behind a gigantic stone wall. I stopped walking. Someone's fighting over there? I thought for a moment. The soldiers said the princess entered the dungeon alone. If that's true, then the one fighting should be her. A small smile appeared on my face. Looks like I finally found her. Instead of looking for another entrance, I casually raised a single finger. A tiny thread of demonic energy gathered at its tip. With a simple flick, boom! The enormous stone wall exploded into countless fragments. The hidden chamber on the other side was instantly revealed. My eyes immediately fell upon the battlefield. Standing in the center was a young woman holding a silver sword. Long black hair danced behind her. Even covered in dust from battle, she looked breathtakingly beautiful. In front of her, a monstrous double five-headed sky-devouring python continuously launched attacks. Although she was fighting brilliantly, it was obvious she was slowly being pushed back. For a brief moment, I simply stood there. So, she's the human princess. I had to admit it. She truly was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. No wonder the previous owner of this body had completely lost his mind. But unlike him, I quickly regained my composure. Beautiful or not, my mission comes first. Without another word, I calmly started walking toward her. The princess had already noticed me the moment I destroyed the wall. First, her beautiful face immediately became cold. It was obvious she recognized me. The Demon King. Judging from the expression on her face, she probably thought I had come here to bother her again. After all, the previous owner of this body had chased her countless times. Unfortunately for her, that fool no longer existed. I wasn't here to confess. I was here to complete a mission. Ignoring the murderous glare she was giving me, I continued walking forward. Suddenly, the giant python noticed my presence. All 10 of its crimson eyes locked onto me. With a furious roar, it lunged forward. The princess's expression immediately changed. Watch out! She instinctively tried to warn me. Unfortunately, she was too late. I slowly raised one hand. There wasn't even the slightest fluctuation of power. I simply spoke one word. Erase. The charging python froze in midair. The next second, its enormous body crumbled into countless particles of black dust. Not even a corpse remained. Silence filled the chamber. The princess stood there completely frozen. Disbelief covered her face. She slowly looked from the disappearing monster back toward me. The previous Demon King had never shown his true strength in front of her. Because of that, she had never imagined that killing such a terrifying monster could be this effortless. For the first time, instead of annoyance, fear appeared in her beautiful eyes. I looked at her and smiled. She subconsciously took a step backward. Why are you here? And what are you planning to do? I didn't answer. There was no point explaining anything. Before she could react, I disappeared from where I stood. Flash. In the blink of an eye, I appeared directly behind her. Her eyes widened. So fast. Before she could finish speaking, I gently struck the back of her neck. Her body instantly went limp. I caught her before she could fall to the ground. Sorry, but I don't really have a choice. Holding the unconscious princess in my arms, I opened another space portal. Crack! Dark cracks spread across space itself. The portal slowly opened before me. Without looking back, I stepped inside. A moment later, I returned to the demon palace. I quietly carried the princess to one of the finest guest rooms in the palace. After placing her gently on the bed, I covered her with a blanket. There. Mission accomplished. At least, that's what I thought. I carefully carried the unconscious princess through the palace. Fortunately, no one noticed me on the way back. Opening the door to one of the finest guest rooms in the palace, I gently placed her on the soft bed. She was still unconscious from the strike. Looking at her sleeping face, I let out a long sigh. What a troublesome mission. I really hope you wake up after I've convinced everyone I haven't gone crazy. Without disturbing her any further, I quietly left the room. Meanwhile, far away in the human kingdom, chaos had already begun. The royal guards searched every corner of the palace, the dungeon, the gardens, the training grounds, even the surrounding forests, but there wasn't the slightest trace of the princess. The emperor's expression became darker with every passing minute. What do you mean she disappeared? She was inside the royal dungeon. How can a person simply vanish? No one could answer. The entire palace fell into panic. At that moment, the hero rushed into the royal hall. His face was filled with anxiety. Your Majesty, please allow me to search for the princess. I swear on my life, I will bring her back. The emperor slowly nodded. Go, find her. Neither of them realized that the princess they were desperately searching for was already inside the demon palace. Back in my palace, my heart refused to calm down. This is going to be troublesome. I wasn't worried about the human kingdom. Even if they attacked, they couldn't do anything against me. What worried me was my own people. I had spent days rebuilding their trust. Now, I had brought the very same princess back to the palace. If I didn't explain myself properly, everything I had worked for would disappear. Thinking for a moment, I called several maids. Take good care of the guest. Make sure she receives everything she needs. The maids looked surprised. Guest, I simply nodded. Treat her with respect. As you command, Your Majesty. After giving my instructions, I left the room. Unfortunately, news spread through the palace much faster than I expected. The human princess is here. His Majesty kidnapped her. I thought His Majesty had changed. So he was pretending all along? Within minutes, the entire palace was filled with whispers. Every minister, every commander, even Butlershin, had heard the news. Soon afterward, an emergency court meeting was called. I slowly walked into the royal court. The atmosphere was completely different from before. Not a single person smiled. The ministers stood silently. The commanders crossed their arms. Even Butlershin wore a disappointed expression. I quietly sat upon my throne. Before speaking, I activated my ability, Celestial Demonic Eyes. Then, mind reading. Countless voices instantly echoed inside my head. I knew it. His Majesty hasn't changed after all. Everything was just an act. He's chasing the princess again. We believed him. What a disappointment. Hearing every one of those thoughts, I slowly closed my eyes. So, this is how all of you feel. For a moment, the entire hall remained silent. Then, without realizing it, a terrifying wave of dark aura leaked from my body. Boom! The palace trembled. Dark energy spread throughout the court like a raging storm. The temperature instantly dropped. Everyone's expressions changed. Their anger disappeared. Only fear remained. Within seconds, the entire hall became deathly silent. I slowly opened my eyes. The crimson glow within them made no one dare to meet my gaze. I looked at everyone before speaking in a calm voice. There is a reason. I did not bring the human princess here because I fell in love with her. I have absolutely no interest in such childish feelings. Every minister looked at me. No one interrupted. The truth was something I could never tell them. I couldn't exactly stand up and announce. An invisible system threatened to erase my soul if I refused. Even I wouldn't believe such nonsense. So, I had already prepared another explanation. I slowly leaned forward on my throne. A faint smile appeared on my face. I kidnapped the human princess because she is the key to my next plan. The ministers looked up. The reason I brought her here has nothing to do with love. It is politics. The hall became quiet. I continued. She is the daughter of the human emperor, the most valuable hostage on the continent. If humanity wants her back, they will have to negotiate. We will demand the return of every remaining demon territory, compensation for the damage they caused our kingdom, and a peace treaty on our terms. Several ministers' eyes widened. One elder slowly nodded. A hostage, the finance minister murmured. That actually makes sense. I continued before anyone could interrupt. The human kingdom celebrated my execution. They thought the demon kingdom had already fallen. So, I decided to remind them that the demon king is still alive. Silence filled the room. Then, one military commander stepped forward. Your Majesty, if this truly is your intention, then it is a brilliant strategy. One after another, the ministers began nodding. Even Butlershin's expression softened. I misunderstood His Majesty. He truly has changed. Hearing their thoughts, I secretly let out a sigh of relief. That was close. At that exact moment, the system quietly appeared. Villainous deception detected. Villain points plus 300. So lying counts too? Successful manipulation increases villain influence. You really have strange standards. The system went silent. After dismissing the court, I finally returned to my room. The moment I closed the door behind me, the familiar mechanical voice echoed inside my head. Mission completed. Villain points awarded. That's it. No congratulations. No explanation. The system didn't respond. As expected, it only appears when it wants something. I shrugged and ignored it. Villain points still had no use to me anyway. Maybe the system had some hidden purpose for collecting them, but since it refused to answer, there was no point wasting my time asking. I walked toward the armchair beside the window and let myself fall into it. Finally, I can relax for a while. I had barely closed my eyes. Bang! The door suddenly flew open. A maid rushed inside, breathing heavily. Why, Your Majesty? I slowly opened one eye. What happened now? The princess. She has awakened. I sighed. I expected that. The maid hurriedly continued. She is fighting the guards. They're trying to calm her down. But she won't listen to anyone. I slowly rubbed my forehead. Another headache. I stood up from the chair. Take me there. Without waiting for another word, I disappeared from the room. The frightened maid hurried after me. Within moments, I arrived outside the guest room. Loud crashing sounds echoed from inside. Bang! Crash! The voices of several guards could be heard. Your Highness, please calm down. We have no intention of hurting you. Please lower your sword. I pushed the door open. The room instantly fell silent. Every guard immediately noticed my arrival. They quickly stepped back and lowered their heads. Your Majesty. I calmly looked around. Furniture had been overturned. The room was in complete disorder. In the center, the human princess stood with her sword drawn. Although she had just awakened, her sharp eyes remained filled with determination. The moment she saw me, her grip on the sword tightened. Without taking my eyes off her, I calmly spoke to the guards. Leave. The guards hesitated for only a second before bowing. As you command. One by one, they quietly left the room. The door slowly closed behind them. Now, only the two of us remained. The princess never lowered her sword. Instead, she pointed it directly at me. Her cold gaze was filled with anger. You! I slowly stepped into the guest room. The moment the door closed behind me, only the two of us remained. The human princess immediately pointed her sword straight at my chest. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Demon King, you've crossed the line this time. I rejected you over and over again because I have no interest in love. And now, you actually dared to kidnap me? She tightened her grip on her sword. What? Do you think bringing me here by force will make me submit to you? You're wrong. I would rather die than surrender to someone like you. I'll fight you until my very last breath. I quietly looked at her. What an incredible misunderstanding. Then again, considering everything the previous owner of this body had done, I couldn't really blame her. I rubbed my forehead. I'm creating even more problems for myself. Let's calm her down first. Without moving from where I stood, I casually snapped my fingers. Snap. The sword in her hand instantly froze. The next second, it shattered into countless tiny particles before disappearing into the air. The princess froze. She slowly looked at her empty hand, then back at me. For the first time, a hint of fear appeared in her eyes. She finally realized, the strength I displayed inside the dungeon wasn't luck. I really could erase things with a single thought. I sighed helplessly. Relax. If I truly wanted to force you, I wouldn't have bothered giving you such a comfortable room. I slowly walked toward a nearby chair and sat down, deliberately leaving several meters between us. I also could have tied you up, or sealed your cultivation. But as you can see, I did neither. The princess remained silent, her eyes never leaving me. I looked at her calmly. I didn't bring you here because I'm in love with you. In fact, I couldn't care less about romance. She frowned immediately. What? I know it's hard to believe, but the man standing before you isn't the same demon king you knew. Her expression became even more suspicious. What kind of trick is this? I smiled bitterly. I knew you wouldn't believe me. Honestly, if someone suddenly said the same thing to me, I'd think they had gone insane too. I leaned back in my chair and folded my arms. So, how about we stop making assumptions about each other and actually have a conversation? The princess looked straight into my eyes. If you don't love me, then why did you kidnap me? I remained silent for a few seconds. Then I slowly stood up. I walked toward the window and looked at the demon kingdom below. Finally, I spoke. Princess Elena. Tell me, who is humanity's greatest hope? She frowned. The hero. I nodded. He captured many of my territories. He even managed to capture me once. Her expression became proud. Because justice always triumphs over evil. Couldn't help but chuckle. Justice. He never defeated me fairly. He attacked when I had lowered my guard. He relied on a weapon that suppressed my power. And after that, the entire continent started calling him a great hero. The princess clenched her fists. So what? I slowly turned around. I also know that he loves you. Her pupils contracted slightly. So, I decided to use that. She frowned. Use what? You. The room became silent. You are the one person he will never abandon. If you disappear, he will come. If he hesitates, the human emperor, the nobles, the people, the entire human kingdom will force him to come. They'll place all their hopes on their so-called hero. I smiled calmly. And this time, I'll make sure he never escapes. I will kill humanity's greatest hope. And when that happens, the human kingdom will lose the one thing keeping it together. Silence filled the room. The princess stared at me. Her expression slowly turned pale. She had never imagined that she wasn't kidnapped because of obsession, but because she was being used to lure the hero into a trap. I simply looked back at her, without another word. Inside, however, I was screaming, please believe it, please believe it. I can't come up with another lie. If she asks one more question, I'm finished. The princess lowered her gaze. She remained silent for a long time. So, your target was the hero all along. She slowly looked up again. And I am nothing more than bait. I didn't answer. She took my silence as confirmation. After a while, she spoke again. You shouldn't underestimate him. Our hero is stronger than you think. He has defeated countless powerful demons. He even captured you once. A faint smile appeared on my face. Ha ha ha. The princess frowned. What's so funny? I calmly walked toward the window. The hero is indeed talented. I'll admit that. But he has never witnessed my true power. She remained unconvinced. You were still captured. I nodded. That's true. But have you ever wondered why I was captured? She didn't reply. The day I was captured, my kingdom was already falling apart. My strongest generals had abandoned their posts. My attention wasn't even on the battlefield. I had lowered my guard. The hero simply seized the opportunity. I slowly turned around. My crimson eyes met hers. If he had challenged me head-on, he wouldn't have lasted a single exchange. The room suddenly grew heavy. A terrifying pressure slowly spread from my body. The air itself seemed to tremble. I am level 100, the peak of this world. The strongest existence walking this continent. I took one step forward. The day your hero witnesses my true strength, he will finally understand what it truly means to face the strongest being in the world. Silence. The princess unconsciously took half a step back. For some reason, she couldn't find a single word to refute him, not because she believed his arrogance, but because, when he released that terrifying aura, every instinct in her body screamed the same thing: run. Yet, he wasn't even directing that aura at her. He was merely standing there, calmly, as if stating an undeniable fact. The princess tightened her fists. You can't keep me here forever. I'll never cooperate with you. Release me now. Otherwise, the human kingdom will fight until the very end. We will destroy you, and your demon kingdom. I looked at her for a moment. Then, I laughed. Ha 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 ha. You think you can escape? I slowly spread my arms. This is the demon palace, the heart of my kingdom. Every formation, every barrier, every inch of space within these walls answers to me. You won't leave this place unless I allow it. The princess gritted her teeth. You, I continued calmly, so stop thinking about escaping. You'll be staying here for a while, until your hero arrives. She glared at me. You really believe he'll lose? I smiled. I don't believe. I know. When he steps into this palace, I'll defeat him, in front of you, so you can witness. The moment humanity's greatest hope falls, the room became silent. After a few seconds, I added with a faint, mischievous smile. Oh, and don't worry, I have no interest in harming my guest. She looked at me suspiciously. I shrugged. After all, it would be a shame if the god's most beautiful creation were damaged before the show even begins. The princess blinked. Was that a compliment? I smiled innocently. I'm merely stating a fact. It has nothing to do with love. She stared at me for several seconds. You're a very strange demon king. Inside my head, that should help her relax a little, right? Meanwhile, the princess was thinking, he says he doesn't love me, but then he casually calls me the most beautiful woman in the world. What exactly is wrong with this man? Night had fallen over the demon palace. I sat in my room, replaying everything that had happened today. What a troublesome woman. Just then, knock, knock. A maid entered and bowed. Your Majesty. The princess has locked herself inside her room. She refuses to eat. I frowned. So? The maid hesitated. None of us can persuade her. I leaned back in my chair. Then leave her. When she's hungry, she'll eat. I closed my eyes. I already have enough problems. I don't have time to take care of one stubborn princess. Just as I finished speaking, a familiar panel appeared before me. Mission assigned. Ensure the princess finishes her meal. Before I could even react, mission accepted. Penalty for failure, soul erasure. I slowly opened my eyes. A vein appeared on my forehead. I never accepted it. The system remained silent. Coward. It ignored me as usual. I sighed heavily before standing up. You. I looked at the maid. Bring today's dinner to the princess's room. Yes, Your Majesty. A few minutes later, we arrived outside the guest room. The maid stood helplessly outside. Your Majesty. She won't even open the door. I clicked my tongue. Move. Everyone immediately stepped aside. I raised a finger. Snap. The entire door silently disintegrated into dust. The princess immediately turned toward the entrance. When she saw me, her expression became cold. The maid carefully placed the food on the table. The princess turned her face away. I won't eat. I looked at her. Eat. No. I rubbed my forehead. Why is she so stubborn? Then, an idea appeared. A wicked smile slowly spread across my face. I see. If you refuse to eat, then the human kingdom won't eat either. The princess immediately looked back at me. What? I spoke as if discussing tomorrow's weather. I'll erase every food warehouse, every grain reserve, every royal storage. They can all starve together. The room instantly became silent. At that exact moment, villainous behavior detected. Villain points plus 100. I almost laughed. So threatening millions of innocent people counts. Good to know. The princess stared at me in disbelief. You wouldn't. I smiled calmly. Try me. Her hands clenched tightly. You monster. I shrugged. The decision is yours. You eat. Or they don't. She bit her lip. Her eyes trembled with anger. After several long seconds, she slowly picked up the spoon. Fine. I'll eat. But promise me, you won't harm them. I nodded casually. As long as you finish your meals, the human kingdom will continue having food. She glared at me. You're despicable. I know. I turned around and walked toward the exit. Before leaving, I glanced back. Take care of yourself. Good night. Then I left the room. Ha 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 ha. My laughter echoed through the corridor. To everyone else, it sounded like the terrifying laughter of the demon king who had successfully broken the princess's will. Inside my head, however, mission complete. Finally, what an exhausting woman. Let's hope tomorrow doesn't bring another ridiculous mission. The first rays of sunlight illuminated the demon palace. As usual, I woke up before sunrise. After washing up and changing into my royal robes, I headed toward the dining hall. The maids immediately bowed. Good morning, Your Majesty. I nodded before taking my seat. Soon, breakfast was served. As I quietly ate, last night's events suddenly came to mind. I looked toward one of the maids. The princess. Did she eat? The maid immediately bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. She finished everything. A faint smile appeared on my face. Good. At least I won't get another ridiculous mission because of breakfast. I continued eating in peace. For once, the system remained silent. Nice. Looks like today will finally be peaceful. After finishing breakfast, I stood up. I'm going for a walk. The servants bowed together. As you command, Your Majesty. I slowly left the dining hall. The fresh morning breeze greeted me. I took a deep breath. This is nice. No mischance. No princess. No hero. Just a peaceful morning. For the first time since arriving in this world, I genuinely felt relaxed. Far away, a familiar mechanical voice echoed. Mission preparing. Calculating. New task loading. The system quietly continued planning my miserable day.